So I think this is the first time that I didn't just press start in the middle of a conversation. Um, and we may actually start with what we're supposed to talk about. I decided to wear this UGA shirt today because I wanted to put on the cloth of a champion. I There's some Michigan fans in my life and that are on my timeline, and I just like what? Let me just put on some championship apparel while I pod today because I think people deserve it. How we doing, Parlay Pete?
We're doing fantastic. And this is a Champions podcast because I've got on a Braves hat, albeit not official team merchandise, but everybody gets the point. We've got the chop, we've got the A. It makes a ton of sense. So, what are we? We're going to just dub this the championship show.
I like it.
Not even championship, champions show.
Yeah, show of champions.
Yeah.
And maybe we're going to have some new champions in the NFC South this year because the Carolina Panthers have flown in a new quarterback. Baker has booked his ticket to Carolina, and he's ready to take the NFC by storm.
Baker. He's an upgrade at the end of the day. And I think that it was a smart move on Carolina's end to go out and get him. And it's funny because Justice in the locker room clearly he kind of took the words right out of my mouth. Them niggas saw Sam Darnold and Matt Corral and are like, nah. They were like, nah.
You know how, and maybe this wasn't your experience, but back in the day, you it's time for your upgrade on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what phone you want, but your parents give you a budget. So instead of getting the brand new iPhone, you got to get it like 2 versions back. Or, you can't, you're not even getting to go there. You want to go smartphone. And they go, here's what we can do for you. We'll give you like the phone with the full keyboard, but it's still not a smartphone or a PDA because, we came up in the PDA days.
Correct.
And you go, okay, I'm upgrading from a Razor, but I'm still not getting an iPhone. I'm getting
I got a rumor.
Yeah, a rumor or like the Crazer, It's like, oh, this is better than what I had, I think. But now I got to figure out this whole new phone, and it's still not what I want. And at the end of the day, I'm going to want another one soon.
Well, think about it. Carolina originally was in the sweepstakes to get a BlackBerry. That's what they wanted. They wanted a BlackBerry that was problematic. but a BlackBerry nonetheless.
Maybe an iPhone.
Or an iPhone. Either or. I just know those were the two most dominant.
Oh, if we're talking about that area, that's a BlackBerry. He was definitely a BlackBerry.
BlackBerry, bro, I still to this day kind of miss my BlackBerry. Like, it was so far ahead of its time.
I love my BlackBerry.
It was great. It was a great stylus. Like, it was a great phone.
BlackBerry Messenger, you could be a snob and like talk to just the people who had BlackBerries.
Well, and you just knowing goddamn well you don't have any business to do, but you're like in 9th grade, 8th grade, like, and you've got a BlackBerry. Or I was in like 11th actually when I had mine, but like, you got a BlackBerry, like you're just playing, like it's a business phone, right? It's just like what the fuck does he need a BlackBerry for?
What's this 17-year-old doing with this? Nothing.
Yeah, nigga's not running a business. But no, Baker at the end of the day was an upgrade that they needed, and Matt Rule knows that he's on his last leg, so he has to do his best to at least win some football games. And come on, we know Sam Darnold's history. He ain't going to be winning no football games with Sam Darnold. Has Sam Darnold ever won football games? No. Matt Corral, rookie. You know that you're getting fired if you're starting rookie. Unless he's going to be the second coming, a fucking Matt Ryan and goes out there and goes 11-6 in his first season. Not happening. At least with Baker, you've got a guy that's, A, got something to prove. He's probably tired of people shitting on him in the media. B, he's in a contract year himself. This is a make or break year for him on whether or not he'll be a starting quarterback in the NFL going forward. 3, it's a fresh start, and it's in a division that, in reality,
second place
this year it isn't obtainable because Tampa is going to win our division. I mean, unless Tom Brady breaks his fucking neck, Tampa's going to win the division. But even though the Saints upgraded a lot, because when I looked at it, I was like, man, the Saints actually had a pretty good offseason. because you're going to get Slant Boy back, which he will still be able to run his slants. The question will be, is he going to catch Jameis's ball? But because at least Drew Brees had the noodle arm to where it set it up well for him because it was intermediate. You know what I mean? It was intermediate. But eventually, Jameis is going to put some fire on that thing. But they drafted Olave. They got the Honey Badger. So they had a pretty – considering that was a 9-8 game, that was a 49ers loss in the last game of the regular season to the Rams, which went to overtime, a loss away from making the playoffs. But Dennis Allen is the coach, and so that's where the question mark comes in there. And then health. Alvin Kamara, of course, is going to be suspended. Has 6 games? Did he already?
No one's talking about it, but I think it's going to be 6.
Yeah. So you're going to miss your best player is out in the first 6 games.
Well, if Slant Boy's back, he could be your best player. I mean, he did make the Mad 99
He's
club.
not your best player. In reality, he still ain't better than Kamara. Kamara is giving you – think about it. Alvin Kamara is the type of guy that can give you 10 receiving and rushing touchdowns legitimately.
Alvin Kamara dates Tia Cooper.
Yeah, Reef's sister, right? Yeah. And she's in the WNBA?
She's a free agent.
Okay. Well, she's a professional women's basketball player.
Yeah, she could probably go get a contract in Russia.
I don't think very many people are going to be wanting to go there.
Not
play basketball anymore.
Not if they smoke weed. But that's a conversation for another day. But
today, we'll get to it a little bit later.
You're right. So interesting perspective on this thing, right? So I saw a tweet from Warren Sharp who talked about it. And essentially he said, yes, they upgraded, but this is Matt Rule making a decision for his job. Well, yes. And I was listening to Michael Lombardi, and he actually responded to the tweet. And he was like, well, what are you supposed to do? You're trying to win games, and I think the football media, they fall in love with rebuilding so much and trying to get good draft position to get the guy. But it's easy to talk like that when that's not your source of income. When your primary source of income is winning games, as much as you want to think about 3 years from now, you got to understand that 3 years from now, you may be back in college football, or you may be instead of a GM, you may be over pro personnel somewhere, or over the scouting department. So it bothers me when people with big platforms and voices that are respected say dumb shit like that. It's like, yes, he made a decision to keep his job. Like, what are you supposed to do? Are you going to go take the company card tomorrow or tonight after we get done pod and go down to Magic City and just run all these types of transactions down there? It's like, no. You got to
It'd be a hell of a write-off. But, no, but you're absolutely right. I wouldn't be doing something like that.
Like, people don't openly make decisions that try to get them fired. I mean, most high-functioning people don't make decisions that try to get them fired, There are people who do things. Like, I work for an organization that does not allow drugs, and they do regular drug testing, and people still smoke weed, but that's neither here nor there.
It isn't. But regardless, good move for Carolina. Upgrade. Better question. Because they're going to sell this thing as a competition, right? Like, they're going to sell it as that. But you're of the belief that they got him to be QB1 and that Darnold's his backup, and that I think Baker's going to have a 6 to 7 game leash, and before they were to pull the leash on him. Like, I truly do believe he's going to be the starter.
I believe that they got him with the intentions of making him QB1. He would not be QB1 day one. And based on what they're paying him and what they gave up for him, that tells me that they're like, I mean, what are we losing here? You pay him $5 million. You give up a conditional 5th round pick. If he plays so many snaps as a 4th rounder, who cares? You gave him away for a bag. You paid him up. You're paying him a bag of peanuts, and you gave away a bag of peanuts. You get him. So for 2 bags of peanuts, I think there's going to be more of a competition than we'd like for it to be.
It's going to make for entertaining preseason football, that's for sure, because that's going to be a team you're going to get to see 3 quarterbacks that, like, you're like, yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like, you'll be able to watch them all. I don't know why you want to know what the issue? Because Darnold's in that 5th-year option, right? So
Yeah, they're paying him.
They're kind of paying him a little too much. I was gonna say that they really wanted to move on from him, and not because you got to think about it. That means they're gonna keep 3 quarterbacks on the 52 man because they're not gonna put Matt Corral on practice squad because somebody will poach him.
Well, maybe
like Tampa will poach him just to poach him. Like
maybe if Darnold loses the job, Baker wins the job, then they try to move Darnold for like a 6th or 7th. Because somebody's gonna get hurt in camp.
He could go to like San Francisco and be the backup because the thought is that Jimmy's not going to be the backup there. And depending on how long Deshaun Watson is suspended, I have a gut feeling that Jimmy G ends up in Cleveland.
So let's talk about Cleveland here because Cleveland is a team that gave up Baker. Deshaun Watson is their starting quarterback right now, but we don't know how many games, if any, that he'll miss given his history. We've talked about the case has concluded. The hearings have concluded, and now we're waiting on the NFL to give us a ruling that's expected to come next week. But I feel like there's some good information out there that made the Cleveland Browns very comfortable about letting Baker go for a conditional 5th-round pick. They didn't because you want to move forward without him, obviously.
Well, you almost had to.
But if Deshaun is taking a big suspension, I think you can actually carry Baker into camp and increase his value because people would.
Yes.
People would be of the belief
more than what he got traded for. Like, I think
maybe.
I
don't think so.
I think we're talking about. Look, we got 3 seasons, right? To look, or 4 seasons to look at. Last year, he was hurt.
Okay,
he was hurt. So it doesn't give him a pass, but like he was hurt.
Okay,
and it was something that he kept playing with. It shows a little bit of toughness. It's just nobody gave a fuck because of like. Him,
his personality,
right? His arrogance and like
his commercials.
Then his wife like got on there and like shit on the team, like was saying basically fuck the fans, like fuck the Cleveland, like that's basically what his wife was saying.
Let's go back to the very beginning with Baker Mayfield. Let's go to year 1, and you talk about good years.
Like a fucking Thanksgiving turkey, and I was front row to see
it. He showed flashes his rookie year. But he lit up a bunch of bad teams. Hugh Jackson gets fired, then goes to another team, and he goes to a team in division because one of his friends hires him. And then Baker's like trying to show him up. Hey, bruh, that's not cool. No part about that's cool. And then to have the nerve to say he said he was all in on us, and then how do you go across town, bruh? I got fired. I want to get paid. I want to continue coaching.
Hey, man, you're not an established quarterback in this league yet. You can't make comments like that. You're not in that position to do that. Whether that's true or not, like whether – let's just say everything he said was 100% true. Bro, you don't have the resume to be talking like that. Like Peyton Manning would say that if he wanted to, but Peyton Manning wouldn't say that.
Exactly. So that happens. Then you have the next year with Freddie Soup Kitchen. Baker is unimpressive. He, again, shows flashes, but there's no consistency. Then you get year 3. You get Stefanski in there. You have a top 3 offensive line, a top running game, and Baker and a solid defense. Yes, and Baker looks like somebody, okay, as long as we build this team well, we can win games with Baker as our rookie quarterback. He goes into Pittsburgh. He wins the playoff game, but let's remember Pittsburgh had 3 turnovers in their first 5 drives, and a lot of them were stupid turnovers. And
they scored every single time, though.
They did. But, I mean, hell, the first one, snap over Ben's head, was that the second one?
They scored on that first drive on them. If I remember correctly, it was a defensive touchdown, right? Or
I believe so, or damn near. But either way, the field position was messed up. There were a bunch of like weird turnovers, like bad picks, fumbles over, snaps over the head.
Yeah, Ben over the hill.
And then you go, you know what? Pittsburgh just didn't have a chance in that game. You win your playoff game, then you go. You can't beat a backup quarterback in the second half, but I got it. It's the eventual Super Bowl champions. So, no, that was not their Super Bowl. That was the reigning Super Bowl.
But they were the defending champions. Yeah.
Then we come back. for year 4. He gets hurt. He's not good. Odell's dad drops the tape. Nobody comes out and defends Baker Mayfield. Baker's gone. No one's like, hey, Baker, we're gonna miss you. It was a good run. What was this number 3, 5, 6? It's a good run 6. Yeah. I mean, Baker is average to below average. If he's on my team, I'm still looking for somebody new. And if he's not on my team, I'm happy. Like, I'm sorry, Baker Mayfield is not worth a contract. I would give Baker 15 to 25 million, and 25 million is on the generous end, but it's a short-term deal. I wouldn't pay Baker shit.
Right.
Again, his best season was when he had a bunch of great pieces around him. And guess what? If you get real quarterback money, we can't afford to put these great pieces around you because you got to be the person that carries them. Baker had a 3rd-round grade by most smart people before the senior week bullshit based on the film, and he's playing like a 3rd-round quarterback. He got through his first contract, and it's like, man, if you weren't a first round, if you wasn't a first overall pick, you'd be a backup, and that would be your fate, or you'd be out of the league.
And that's exactly what he's going to get to figure out here in Carolina. It's not an ideal situation for somebody like him because that's not a talented football team. And I'm not sold on Matt Rule. I don't think he's a good coach. That's just my opinion. Like, I think history tells me, and I guess in our division, I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, and you tell me if this is a hot take. Arthur Smith was the 2nd best coach in the NFC South.
I think Arthur Smith was one of the best coaches in the league last year. If you look at that roster and you look at the way he pulled 7 wins out of us, it's insane.
It was a 3-win team.
It was insane.
And then even this year, if he wins 6 games,
he pulled 7 wins out of nothing. And honestly, the way we dropped the Washington game and we dropped the first Carolina game, we could have been a 9-win. We could have legitimately been a 9-win team. And I don't know where the hell Arthur found that shit.
You know what's crazy? If I'm not mistaken, if I'm not mistaken, there we go. Look at that. Funny enough, and he corrected the one thing that we have been bad at for so many years. We won close games.
Yeah.
We were like 6-2 on the season in 1-possession games.
That's not us.
And I want you to think about this too. Before I was at the elimination game, we were in it until January 2nd, week 17.
That was the Buffalo game.
Yeah. And we were winning at halftime.
Yeah.
We were up at halftime and had a chance to be down less than a touchdown. If they didn't, they called some bullshit on Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan ran for a touchdown. And I forgot what it was. I think they ruled he was short, but he did something with the football, and it was a 15-yard penalty.
I remember that. I remember some bullshit happening in that game.
He was short, and then they gave us a 15-yard penalty, unsportsmanlike conduct on 2. And because he was short on the 1, it made you take it back to the 16, and it was 3rd down, or might have even been 4th down or something. And then you had to kick a field goal, and I think it got blocked. I don't think Younghoe Koo missed. Or he might have. It was fucking freezing that day. But he might have missed it. But regardless, it swung the game. But they had a chance to win. But, yes, I'm just simply saying you could argue even within our division, coaching is going to be a big deal for Baker. Clearly that's going to be something that he's going to need. With Stefanski, right, we saw what a good play caller can do. Matt Rule is not a good play caller.
I mean, he has what's his name? A former head coach as his OC.
Yeah, a guy that got fired in his first contract. And matter of fact, Pro Football Talk had put this article out about him. McAdoo ranked that class of quarterbacks with Baker and Darnold. He ranked them 1 through the top 6 guys. He had Baker's number 6 on his list. Funny enough, he had Josh Allen 1, Lamar Jackson 2, which obviously he was dead on with that. Essentially, Darnold 3, Rosen 4, Mason Rudolph 5, Baker 6.
I wouldn't have been mad at that when he put it out. Like
At the time, it's
I would have been mad about Josh
people
Allen
would have
one.
definitely said Josh Allen. People would have been like, Josh Allen, the best quarterback. Because think about it. Yeah, he had all the intangibles, but it was just like, I can't get over the fact that this guy had barely a 50% completion percentage.
Yeah.
At Wyoming. I get it. He was playing with Wyoming talent, but he was also playing against Wyoming type talent. So if he's that good, couldn't he have done a little bit more than that? Like,
You'd hope so, but can we take some time to give out some flowers here?
Yes.
I don't even like using that phrase too often, but the Las Vegas Raiders made history today by hiring Sandra Douglas Morgan as their new president of football operations, or team president, excuse me. How do you feel about it? I mean, I think it's a good for her. I'm glad she got the job. And I'm going to say something that's not going to sound great, but I'm happy that a black woman got a job that they probably don't deserve. Maybe it's a pander thing. We're doing something nice to cover up for Gruden being a vile racist and homophobe, based on what came out the email. I got it, but she hasn't worked in football ever, and she's a lawyer. And she's worked with casinos, so I think she's a high functioning individual, and hopefully she gets some good football people around her, and she just runs that ship properly. And I'm rooting for her. Okay, I'm rooting for her. I want her to win. And I'm celebrating somebody black getting a job in a career field that they didn't put in the time in. They didn't put in the hours, but they put the hours in elsewhere. And somebody said, you know what? You can run our operation. I love
it. And she's clearly, if she's an attorney for the casino, she's known around Vegas. She's known. They know who she is. The people with the money know exactly who she is. So
and that's what matters.
Kudos to her. And to I don't know, I was about to call him Al Davis. He's not Al.
Mark
Davis. Kudos to him for making the hire. Because clearly, even though she might have not been qualified, plenty of people that aren't qualified get jobs. And it's the Raiders. They're a brand. That's a top 5 brand in the NFL, I'd like to believe. Not to sexualize her, because that's what everybody does, I guess, with women. But she is sexy. She looks good, too. So, it's a good look all the way around for them. Absolutely. And good call. But, they had to make up, too. They cut Carl Nassib.
Carl Nassib.
Yeah, they cut him, and so
you don't even know his. That's the problem. That's the problem right there. You men can't even take the time to know someone's name. Why don't you know his name?
I don't know. I need to get canceled because of it, honestly. Because clearly, there's only one of them. One of the openly ones in the NFL. There's only one openly gay player in the NFL, and I can't even pronounce his fucking name. Shame on me.
I mean, really, are you an ally or are you an enemy?
See, I had to think about it. Clearly, I'm not on that side. So, I've got to be an enemy in this case.
Pride Month was last month. Did you wear your colors? Did you go to a march?
Did you support gay business?
I don't know any gay business owners.
Well, God damn it, they got the flags outside.
I did go to a bar that had a flag outside.
All right. Well, then you support it.
It may have been in... We're assholes.
No, I mean, this is, and I hate to, especially because we're on NFL. I don't want to transition to it, but it's honestly a perfect time to even transition directly into the Macy Gray trends comment.
Oh, let's do it. Why not?
Well, just because we're already on the subject.
I mean, because we were done with NFL anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Macy Gray pretty much said that trans women. That real women were born women. And
she gave us nothing but factual information.
And there is a loud minority on the internet that took offense to this. And as a black person, people said bad things about our people and our race publicly, privately, and their actions have displayed it. But I'll tell you what, I lose less and less sleep over people's rhetoric who do not have any influence on the people who they're speaking poorly of opportunities, right? So I understand that somebody can have a point of view that you don't like, you don't agree with, and disagree with it. Call them out if you so choose. But what does it really matter? What does that person's perspective that you don't agree with actually mean in the grand scheme of things? Who's being bothered? Who's having doors shut in their face because of this person's perspective? I remember a few years ago, I came on here and was like, Clemson should divorce Dabo. Not because I don't think that Dabo's a good coach. I think he's a great coach. He's a great recruiter. But his thoughts, his views on fights against racial injustice did not sit right with me. He didn't want his players doing it for whatever reason. And I thought that was wrong. But when you have somebody who displays that type of behavior, Dabo has an influence on a lot of black people's lives. And because he's in a place of power, to me, I hold him more accountable. But random person who has a negative view on black people, for the most part, I could care less. But then, like Macy Gray, she has her thoughts on that. Hey, women who are born a women are real women. Like changing your body parts doesn't make you a woman. Her words. What? Who cares? Like she's not an employer saying, "Hey, I will not hire trans women." Hey, I don't like trans. I think trans women are this. No, she just said, "Hey, look here. You can change out your body parts, but you're not a woman."
And I think that she even prefaced it by saying she knew that people were going to be mad. She literally said that, and then also said, if he wants to be called a she, he will call you a she just because that's what your preference is, but that doesn't make you a woman. And I am a person that is of the belief of that. Now, if you're somebody in that community or outside of that community that thinks differently, that's your opinion, right? Like you can definitely do that. Now, she stated nothing but facts at the end of the day, because that is a fucking fact. Like, people can't get mad at facts. We can't be sitting up here and trying to change out things that we know to be true just because
it's a new day. How do we know it's true?
We know it's true because that's the way people are fucking born. And that's just what it is. Just like that trans person is born a man or woman and then they decide to make the switch, that's a fact as well. We don't know what that person feels on the inside to where they could say that, hey, I'm a woman. Okay, I'm a white man. People are going to look at me like I'm fucking crazy. You know why?
But what do you feel in your heart?
I'm not a white man. I'm not a white man. I might think that I'm a white man. I mean, I might be like, man, I hate niggas too. like, you know what I mean? Like I identify with what they do. That's what I like doing. I like crushing natties. I like going on boats. I like listening to country music. Like, at that point, well, then why am I not white?
Because
my favorite sports are hockey and baseball. I like golf. The NBA, I can't watch that bullshit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, well, at that point, what makes me not white? If that's how how I feel. Why can't I be transracial?
I have nothing for you here.
Well, because this is what I'm saying. It's set up to where you can't even question it, or if you say anything wrong, everybody gets upset. Like, we can fact check things and be like, yeah, like that ain't true. But we all know if you're born with a penis, you're a man, and if you're born with a vagina, you're a woman. So I got factual. There is no third gender. There are two genders. These are factual stuff. Christopher Columbus.
Well, hold on, no. Hold on. I got something for you. Sex is usually categorized as female or male, but there is variation in the biological attributes that comprise sex and how those attributes are expressed. Gender refers to the socially constructed roles, behaviors, expressions, and identities of girls, women, boys, men, and gender diverse people. So, gender is social. So you can pick whatever gender you want socially, but your sex, according to this definition, is biological.
That's a good, that's a good point that you're bringing up.
So, and I wanted to bring it up because I was having a conversation with somebody who's much more liberal and open minded than I am about this. And I'm like, gender, sex, same thing. No, it's not. I'm like, since when? Look it up. Okay, I look it up. And I go, oh, sorry. Gender is a social construct that is based off of sex, which is a biological construct. But socially, I got it because no one can tell you who you are socially or can't. I mean,
It
because
seems
I
like
mean,
people
start
do it
thinking
all.
about like, so can I identify socially as an aristocrat, an aristocrat, but identify financially as middle class? I mean, usually those two things don't go together, right?
Normally, no.
And I think when we take these conversations off of sex and gender, right, and you try to compare and contrast, right, to different things of like what you are versus what you identify as, it doesn't make sense anywhere else, but we accept it in sex and gender because of feelings. And maybe because we don't feel those feelings, we can't identify and understand. Or maybe like, what if I just say some people's feelings are wrong? And not even specific to this topic, because I want to get away from this topic because I don't want people to think that I'm spewing transphobic rhetoric, because I'm not. I could care less
Too
what you
late.
do with your body.
Too late. You already messed up.
Well, look,
Somebody is gonna disagree.
well, and that's fine. We can disagree, but
But no, they're gonna make it seem like what you're saying is wrong, what they're saying is right. Because
and they
disagreeing is one thing. There's a gray area there, but they want to when people do these arguments, like they try and make it black and white, as if no, you're wrong, I'm right.
and that doesn't exist in almost anything like but math, basic math. I don't know about the other math because I didn't learn it. Um, but it's one of those things where people have to know that their feelings are wrong. Like, I can feel like you threw some shade at me one day, and I can feel that, and I say, "Hey, bro, I saw what you said. I don't really appreciate that." And you go, "What are you talking about?" I didn't know that triggered a traumatic experience from your childhood that you never told me about.
Right.
And I go, "Oh, my feelings were wrong based upon what your intentions were with what you said." But that doesn't exist anymore in society. My truth is the truth.
It's one of those situations where everybody has gotten an opinion on it, and there are some things that are factual, there are some things that aren't, but we just want to make it to where I guess people feel like they're just being slighted if they're not categorized I mean, think about how insignificant something like that is in the grand scope of what it is that you do. Like if you, even if you identify as a woman and you're like mad that somebody doesn't want to call you that when they think you're really a man, I'm like, what does that really have to do with anything?
If they're not impeding upon your civil liberties and they're not stopping you from making money,
Yeah,
who
that's
gives
what
a
it
shit?
matters.
Like so if you're trying to buy a house and they say no, I'm not going to sell a house to you because you won't identify as what I want. Well, that's fucked up, yeah. But if it's just like, hey, person who I don't know, person who I've never met, I'm going to do a national interview and I'm going to say what I feel. You are more than in your right to have a response to it. But you also should evaluate what's important to you. Like let's list our priorities down, and maybe we should get off the socials. Maybe we should watch less TV. Maybe we should find, I don't know, we should experience some things in life that cause us to properly reflect on shit that matters and shit that we actually should care about, you know?
Right.
And while we're here, it kind of takes me to BG, because BG pled guilty. And before we get to BG pleading guilty, I want to talk about her coach, because there's this narrative. There's a narrative that's painted because she's Brittany Griner was a black lesbian, that this is why she was detained for as long as she was in Russia. Maybe show me your evidence. Um, some say that she didn't have what she allegedly had on her, or it wasn't as much. And I go, okay, maybe show me your evidence. Um, and maybe I shouldn't trust Russia for their word, but am I shocked that a professional athlete playing in Russia had some weed on him? No, I'm not. Sorry. Call me crazy, but I'm not shocked. And she gets caught, and then there's the other argument. Well, this is a whole nother discussion why she even had to go over to Russia to play basketball. She didn't have to do anything. She chose to go get that bag over there. And sorry, you chose a career that has a cap on how much you make. Okay, like, I'm sorry. Yeah, you chose women's basketball where you make, I don't know, 100,000 tops. I think they changed the pay scale. Sorry, come on, man. That's like getting mad if you're on the gymnastics team or you're on the men's tennis team and you're upset that Bryce Young is getting more money in NIL than your scholarship is worth in the overall 4 years. Yeah, he produces money. But again, back to the coach. Talking about if this was LeBron James, he would be back home. For one, LeBron James would not have to go to Russia for anything, and he would probably fly private, and he wouldn't have any of these issues.
He wouldn't have fucking hash oil, wax, whatever the fuck she got.
He wouldn't have dope on him.
Well, he would just know.
And then also, LeBron James is far too important to the LA Lakers, the National Basketball Association, Nike, and every other organization that he's involved in. He's a fucking billionaire. Guess what? He's important to a lot of people. So when you are super important to a lot of people, people go above and beyond to make sure that you're okay. And this is a sad reality, but Brittany Griner is not a high revenue producing individual in the field that she's in.
Even if she is one of the best at what she does in her field isn't something many people watch, know about,
care about, like
even overseas, even more so. Like the people, let's just say LeBron James has some weed on in Russia. Let's just say it happened.
It ain't his.
It ain't his, or more importantly, the people there, they recognize, they know who LeBron James is if he was walking through the airport. Those people would know who LeBron James was. A majority of them would.
Do you know how many phone calls are being, because again, this didn't initially go public. Do you know how many phone calls are being made before it goes public? Like, and
for LeBron.
Right. And what people need to know is, this is not me, and I don't think this is you saying that she deserved to be detained as long as she was. Like, it's weed. Who cares?
To me, the bigger issue, if anyone wants to have an issue with it, yeah, we can be upset about her breaking the law in a different country and that's just being the way they handle it. And yeah, of course she's being used as a political prisoner, but she did still break the law too. She got herself into this situation, and it is unfair. Everybody should really be looking at the president. I mean, that's who I'd be looking at, because as I brought up earlier, people can have an issue with Donald Trump. Like, I am not a Donald Trump supporter, even though, and this might be the first time I publicly said this, even though I voted for him in this past election. Huh?
Once or twice?
Once. I didn't vote for him the first time, but I did the second time because I really did. I voted for him because I thought he was going to be a better president. But that's just, and not to look at it, everybody has to vote for their own personal reason. I thought it was going to help me out more. And so, because what he did in his first year, it did help me. Like, it helped me. And so, that's the first thing. But secondly, Donald Trump went to bat for A$AP Rocky. He didn't even know who the fuck A$AP Rocky was. But he's and look, they might be pussies over there in Sweden. But he told him, all right, look, we're gonna cut off all the trade shit we got with y'all if y'all don't release this nigga. And what did
And
they
I
do?
think
They're like, we're gonna release this nigga. Like, because
it, here's the thing, just for the listener who's not aware of how foreign politics works. Um, Sweden is not the power that Russia is, but also Donald Trump is not the career politician that President Biden is. And Donald Trump, part of MAGA and part of what Donald Trump ran on and what his policy showed is he's an America first guy. He's like, hey, bro, fuck y'all. For the most part, it's like, hey, fuck y'all. Like, if you ain't us, like, we want to focus on stuff here. We want to incentivize, I mean, like, gas was cheaper for a reason. Somebody tried to tell me the Keystone Pipeline was still running, but last I read, it wasn't. So, whatever. But we were getting more oil from America because we have it here. We weren't putting money in the pockets of people who now have us by the balls. So different philosophies and different approaches, but now she has pled guilty. And apparently this is like a step in getting her back over here because the experts say she had to plead guilty to become a prisoner in order to do a prisoner swap. Now, hopefully we get her back. And I just need people to know that given the situation in Ukraine and the way we're supporting Ukraine, and Russia's the one who's at war with Ukraine, an American who's over there, it's not as simple as, hey, bring her home or we're going to do this. Because outside of her situation, we're already doing things to make life more difficult for them. And there's only so many things that you can do before you end up in a war. And is Brittany Griner the straw that breaks the camel's back to go to war? And again, I don't know what's been happening behind closed doors. Could there have been more being done? Probably. Did the public outcry probably help lead to this? Maybe, but she also just had a trial today. She just went to trial. It's not like she's been rotting in prison. She's been rotting in jail waiting on the trial, similar to what YSL is doing right now.
That's true. I mean, but I just think that, and maybe it's because he has what appears to be a good relationship with Putin. My money would say that Brittany Griner would be playing in a WNBA game this past week if Donald Trump was president. And I'll just leave that at that.
I totally agree with you. I think he would have not gone the diplomatic route, but he would have got it done.
Bro, they would have been on the phone. I have to imagine, I'm curious as if Joe Biden has even spoke to Vladimir Putin. Since this has happened, where they've been on the phone with each other. Like Donald Trump, obviously, I put up that picture. I don't know where that was at, but I'm not saying they were boys. And of course, there's all the conspiracy there that he helped him win the election, all this other stuff. But the propaganda, Facebook, all that shit, literally. But I don't know. I just think that, Donald Trump is not seen, even if people think he's a joke, an idiot, or racist, whatever, I don't think that he's viewed as a weak person. I think that Joe Biden is very much so viewed as a weak person. I mean, that's why there's viral videos, that get put up of this man falling asleep in the middle of an interview and then them telling him, all right, cut the questions. And then him falling over on his bike. I think he's just viewed as a weak person. He's somebody's granddad that be just talking.
I think that we've gotten to a place to where our major politicians are too old, and we need to brighten up the room, and we need to ensure that we have decision makers who are making the best decisions for the American people.
And then we can get off politics. But and then something got brought up that I saw just in regards to what you literally just said, to where it was a post. Somebody had said, most 70 to 80-year-olds can't find work in the United States for two reasons. Either they're senile or they physically just can't do the work or whatever. Why is it that our government is the only place where the positions with the most power, these people are able to continue to get work, but everywhere else they can't get fucking work.
I have comments, but I will not say them publicly.
Moving along.
Let's talk about Brooklyn's finest. Jay-Z.
Where Brooklyn at? Brooklyn.
I mean, it's so much stuff that they give us, but Brooklyn's finest. They're ready to leave. They're ready to blow up the franchise, or either they just got the franchise over the barrel. I'm not sure yet. Huh?
I think they're reshuffling. They could still be a playoff team next year if they make the right moves on the trade.
Yeah, I mean, they still got Ben Simmons.
If that nigga ever wants to play basketball again.
Ben Simmons kicking it out to TJ Warren.
And whomever they trade for, plus what's sounding like at least 7 times out of 10, you have Russell Westbrook and Ben Simmons on the same team.
Boy, that rim gonna need some work. Just take the nets off. They ain't swishing shit. Well,
hell, at that point, you might want to every half switch out whichever side of the other team's on, and at least put a double rim up to make it even, so we can see just as many clinks. Like,
you know what though? I think obviously everyone knows that KD and Kyrie are trying to leave, and we're gonna get into the specifics of them. I think that Joe Tsai has finally decided, hey, this is my team. Y'all are not going to hold me over a barrel any longer. And if y'all want to leave, damn winning, damn all of that stuff, I got to look myself in the mirror every day. And I own you guys because I pay you. And teams are set up very much like slaves, rich slaves. But nonetheless, he owns them, and he's just fed up with it. And you know what? If I was a billionaire, and I'm not the Buzz family because that the Lakers is their primary source of income, y'all ain't gonna just treat me like this. Like at some point, hey, bro, I'm too rich for this.
I don't even need the fucking team. I'm straight.
Right.
Bro, so I'm literally a professional money maker and check cutter.
That's like
it's literally my occupation.
Bro, it's like having drama with a side chick. It's like, whoa. Nobody employs a side chick to get headaches. They employ side chicks to get away from headaches. I don't do that. I'm a faithful man. But you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like it's like, hold on. I deal with my woman's extra shit. Yeah, no. And I think that's what it is for Joe Tsai. He's like, man, this is not my primary source of income. I'm done with this. And Sean Marks, I don't know what he does. Honestly, I don't. I think that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving have pretty much done everything that this franchise has done since they've been there. And he's probably fed up with it too, because, and we're going to talk about it a little bit later, but I think there's this fascination of building a team that may not align with winning a championship that comes from like the nerds, because I heard the old GM who made the Celtics trade, he works for ESPN now. Bobby Marks.
Isn't it funny that they had like the
exactly? But Bobby Marks was like,
same type of deals.
He's like, yeah, if I'm there, I would just be ready for both of them to go so I can build the team the way I want to build it. You're probably not going to get a champion the way you want to build it there, buddy. And your track record says
you're going to get fired in 2 years anyways after the trades are done.
Exactly. So
you're just setting the stage for somebody else.
I wish I could just like cue up Alicia Keys right now. New York City, please go easy on me tonight.
As a matter of fact, it really sets up for Sean to end up getting fired, and they're gonna make a run at your boy.
Presti?
Yep. They'll
Okay.
make him the highest paid GM in all of sports, not just the NBA, but all of sports.
And you know what? I think that would be a good look for Presti, and that will let us know what he's really made of.
But he clearly is respected around the league, and that's why LeBron came out and at All-Star break-in was just like, he's the best. Think about it, Rob Pelinka's his GM. And he's like, he's the best GM in basketball, basically.
Look, LeBron also chose Russell Westbrook, okay?
LeBron's not a GM. But yes, he is the de facto GM, yes.
And that's why he could.
Most star players are, though, for what it's worth. Now, do they get the control that LeBron gets? LeBron gets a lot of control. I know that he has his fingerprints all. I mean, Clutch.
He owns an agency. Come on, man.
Yeah.
As a player.
Yeah.
So do we think that the owners, the teams, are going to take power back from the players? I keep hearing this, KD and Kyrie are another example of why you can't turn your franchise over to your best players. You got to find guys like Steph and Giannis. And it's like, you understand that those two guys work for functional companies, functional teams. So it's easy to just hoop.
Well, and then, come on, man. The NBA is a rotation of about 7 cities where these guys go. These guys aren't going anywhere, at least to sign. You might get traded somewhere, but at least to sign, these guys aren't going. If they're not staying with their smaller market, medium market teams because they're throwing them so much money, they're always going to sign in LA. They're always going to sign in New York. They're always going to sign in Miami. They're always going to sign in Chicago. These are places that everybody is going to go. And once they add the franchise to Las Vegas, that there's going to be tons of people that want to go there.
Think about this. You live in a major city.
Yeah, and
but you have no intentions of doing a city swap with me.
No, absolutely not.
Even if your money stayed the same.
Absolutely. I'd have to get a significant amount of money to make
it. And your dollar would stretch further here. You could have the same salary. You would not move down here. And I think that's what people need to understand. I'm reading a book, Showtime, the book that the show Winning Time is based off of.
Yeah.
Jeff Pearlman. I'm actually reading the book first because I got to read the book before I watch the show. And there were different comments in the book talking about Magic Johnson, talking about Kareem, and how the media viewed these people. And I think it's absolutely crazy that somebody can go on a TV show, can go on a podcast, can write a column saying, how dare KD demand a trade? How dare this player try to use his leverage in the front office to get what he wants? And if Sean Marks wanted to just trade Kevin Durant, he could just call up the league and say, hey, look, here's what I want for KD. And he could have just traded him. And KD can't say a damn thing about it. So the idea that people think it's wrong for a player who's an employee that most of us identify with to go into his boss's office and utilize his leverage when he or she is no longer happy in their situation, that is fucking nuts to me. I cannot comprehend a mindset that thinks that level of ownership should exist. Now, if you don't have leverage, you don't have leverage, bro. You got to do what you got to deal with.
There are certain fields where this can be allowed and done. What are they going to do if KD if he wants to be traded? I mean, what can they really do? He's one of the best basketball players in the world, and there's not too many people that are going to be out here that'll be able to replace him. These guys are kind of irreplaceable type people. It's one thing in my industry, with, staffing, temporary labor, whatever. We can always pretty much find somebody to replace anyone, even as valuable as somebody is. But the one thing that's important in both industries, regardless in sports and this, the employees are the people that make this thing go round. I mean, they have to be treated right. If they've been there for 3 years, they've given you the service. They made a financial commitment to you. If they're respectfully asking to be gone, or I'm taking another job, like whatever, oblige. It's pretty simple, and then it's a good look for people to want to come to you. That at least you're not going to hold me hostage. You're not going to sit here and make me, wait this thing out, like, or whatever. Case in point with Sam Presti. Nobody knew that Paul George requested a trade out of Oklahoma. We looked up one day, and they said that man was going to the Clippers and that Kawhi Leonard intended to sign in LA. That was completely behind the scenes. And ironically, Paul George was in the same restaurant as me when it happened. It's so wild.
You in LA?
Man, we were in Vegas. Yeah, it was during the summer league. We were in Vegas.
That is right. That was 2-3 summers ago.
Yes.
Summer 19. Yeah, because I was
same as Katie going to Brook.
Yeah, because I was in LA that weekend. But think about this, right? So with your staffing company, I assume that you have contracts with certain companies where you provide laborers.
Correct.
And because you continue the as important as your employees are, your contracts are super important.
They're most important.
But if you build a reputation where you're getting to a place that another company wants to offer you a contract, and you go, "Hey, look here, we can't accept this contract because we don't have the labor to support you. We don't have like the people to get to fill what you need. But we can get it if you buy us out of this contract." And they want to buy you out.
Buy us out of it and pay us enough, and I'll take all my people with me at this location and just tell them this is where we're reporting now.
And if somebody's willing to buy you out, which they're going to have to overpay to buy you out, then you can go. Just like if you find another opportunity, you can look at somebody you've been contracted with, like, "Hey, our contract's over and we're not trying to renew."
Or at the bare minimum too, even in a situation like that, now I've got leverage anyways. I just go to the people that I do have the people with, and I'll say, "Hey, just to let you guys know, this is what they're offering me. I'm going to accept it if you guys don't, at the bare minimum, match it. If not, really go above and beyond, because they might try and bid a little bit more to get us. They know that we're good in this niche market, specifically with you guys, and you guys are in the same industry. And clearly, the price is going up in the industry, and I just wanted to let you know that. That's all I got to say.
And boom, and that's what KD is. He says, "Hey, look, man, I'm one of the best people who does what I do. I want my man to get paid, doing it with us. If not, he's walking. He's going to get paid next year by somebody. You got to spend the money. And if you don't want to pay my man long term for us to be here, I don't want to be here." And that's what happens. But when you talk about it in sports, you don't talk about it in business. Well, what about the fans? Bro, Knicks sell out every game.
More importantly, fans look at it, it's because these guys do make upwards of $40 million a year. So they're just like, it's like he's being a baby. He makes all this fucking money.
So what? Do people not understand that no matter how much money you make, you want to be happy going to work?
Well, and like you said, fuck how much money he makes. There's only 400 and something guys no, it's more than that. No, it's like
300 times 15. 30 times 15. So less than 500. I mean,
less than 500 guys get to play in the NBA.
Yeah.
In my field, I believe that there's 8 million plus warehouse workers. It ain't the same.
Yeah, most of them come a dime a dozen.
They are getting paid because that's what the market says that job pays. This market doesn't say that. So how much they make is really irrelevant in the grand scheme of their job and their comfortability and whether or not they want to do it. Yes, they don't have to worry about if they're going to be able to pay their rent. Unless they really are fucking that check up like that. They don't have to worry about these common folk issues. Am I gonna, even for a small business owner, am I gonna make payroll because I haven't been paid yet? Like, we don't have to worry about this stuff.
But yeah, people want to. People love to spend other people's money and tell them what they're supposed to accept based on what they're getting. And are there times when you're talking about players in a salary cap league where you go, you've made enough, you've made more than enough money to be good, to live a good lifestyle. Are you willing to take a pay cut to win? When we're talking about the spirit of competition and winning championships, I think that is an appropriate conversation to have. But if the answer is what Shannon Sharp says, it's not my job to balance the cap. It's your job to balance the cap. Give me my money. What do you say to that? There's no answer to that because you're not going to go to your employer and say, "Hey, I was reviewing the books, and I know this guy who works at the firm across town, and he's much better in my department, and I'm willing to take a 10% pay cut so that with the guy you just fired, we can replace him with this guy who's much better instead of bringing in an entry level guy."
Easier, and
Right.
it'll eventually make me more money anyways, whether you pay it to me or somebody else does.
Right. Most people aren't doing that.
Because our resume is going to speak for itself.
Right.
And even in pro sports, right? Nobody. I mean, Brady's done it for the longest, but like,
come on, bro. Like, well, look at what his wife does.
Well, but look at him.
That shit matters.
But look at him taking those cuts for that long. It built it up to where he became the ultimate champion of the NFL, and it sets him up to get a 10-year, $375 million deal with Fox to be because he's the GOAT. If he wasn't the GOAT, if Tom Brady had 2-3 Super Bowl rings, I promise you Fox wouldn't have given him that type of
He would get 20 mil tops. They would give him more money than Romo, but he would get like 20 mil.
Yeah.
Not 37 and a half a year.
The GOAT, because of those pay cuts that he took, the teams got built appropriately around him. He always had a good offensive line. That's why he's been able to play so fucking long because he's not getting hit like that.
But that's why comfort matters, right? You know, and I think about Steph Curry. Steph Curry's rookie extension was not a max deal because of his
4 year, 44.
And then
injuries. And then Monte, think about it. People wanted Monte Ellis over.
Yes.
And honestly, at the time, I was one of those people.
Yeah, they weren't wrong if they were looking at what they were seeing. But Mark Jackson was also coaching, so don't want to go there. But the difference between like you look at Steph and a LeBron, right? Steph makes a lot of comfortable decisions because Steph grew up comfortably, financially comfortable, right? LeBron doesn't leave much money on the table because LeBron didn't grow up that way. And when you don't grow up that way, your priorities are different because the sacrifices that Steph will make for winning, Carmelo would never.
Bradley Beal.
Hey, but everybody's talking shit about Bradley Beal, but what's the difference between Bradley Beal and Devin Booker? I'm going to say their front office.
Their front office, yeah, because I would even say similarly in terms of living, DC is a place I think people would move, just like people would move to Phoenix. Like, there's some attractiveness in both locations.
If you have a competent front office who are making good moves, people will come join you in DC.
The issue, and it ended up being a good trade for Houston, I guess, trading John Wall for Russell Westbrook. Because Russell Westbrook, he broke the triple-double record there. They did make the playoffs.
No, yeah. I mean, I think it worked out.
When Bradley Beal was injured or taking a rest day or whatever, Russ was able to carry the load and they'd win basketball games. Because it worked in Russ's favor because he wasn't playing with better players. And that's what Russ is used to eating off of. Playing with players that aren't better than him. So he's just gonna look good, even if it means nothing. Like, he's gonna look good, which is why a trade to Brooklyn for Kyrie, especially with KD leaving too, I could just easily see it working out. Like, Russ could go back to averaging 23,
10 and 10,
9 and 10. Yeah, like I could see it for 2 more years, as long as his body doesn't break down, because he wasn't really injured this year.
No, he played. I think he played like 80 games.
Outside of the games where they sat him at the end when they knew, they weren't going, like he was the healthiest player on the fucking team this year. So and his stats weren't god awful. Eye test wise, we just saw how bad it was.
So, question for you: do you think that a family reunion between LeBron and Kyrie could work in LA if we got a healthy street clothes?
Man, I think that if you get street clothes for 55, 60 regular season games, as long as he's ready for the playoffs, all signs go. That team still wins 52 games.
And here's what I think a lot of people are missing about this team. If they can get Kyrie on the roster, Anthony Davis is already doing the social media tour to let people know I'm back, baby. I'm taking care of it. Right.
I know y'all heard about me not picking up a ball in 2-3 months.
What's going to happen is
international friendlies, but
what's going to happen is players are going to get bought out. It happens every single year, and they look for the market the team that makes the most sense. LeBron wins the buyout market year in and year out. When he has a winner around him, he wins the buyout market. And the one thing that I think was telling about this Kyrie thing, this Kyrie trade, is that John Wall, who was getting ready to be traded to the Lakers for Russell Westbrook at the trade deadline, that trade was available. John Wall chose the Clippers over the Lakers. John Wall's a clutch client. So the conversation was there. And the Lakers, they should be LA Clutch. Or the Clutch Lakers. Yeah. They got like 7 clutch clients on the team. Which they're all going to be gone by the trade deadline. I just hope y'all know the Lakers are just I think the Lakers are going to make a move. And I think I just don't see LeBron going off into the shadows quietly. And I also think it'll work. People say, well, who's going to guard? They'll figure it out, man.
They'll figure it out.
Yeah, 80 at the rim. They'll figure it out.
They'll figure it out. And I feel
like Thomas Bryant.
Kyrie's going to have so much motivation on his end because you're not going to have to deal with this COVID thing more than likely this upcoming season. It's not going to really be a thing. So that's out the window now. He's back with Bron where – obviously, Kyrie's best work has come with LeBron James. He's going to be in LA. He's a Laker now. And kind of back to what you said when it came to the buyout market, too, they're going to end up being able to get somebody in the buyout market because guys like to be Bron's guy. Like, people like the idea of saying, yeah, man, I'm one of Bron's guys. Like Richard Jefferson, as much as we knew Richard Jefferson as a New Jersey Net, San Antonio Spur, he's one of LeBron's guys, though. Now, like he was that tutelage of he was one of LeBron's guys, and
he was like that
on TV. Like I hate to say it, low key because of the end of his career, being a Cavalier. Like,
yes and no. Bron gave him his first opportunity with the Road Tripping podcast, and it allowed people to see how good he is. Because Richard Jefferson is good too.
He is good. I'm just simply saying the LeBron effect helped with that decision. Perfect.
Absolutely. So we believe in the family reunion. Where does Katie go? And is Katie crazy for asking out?
The first teams when I saw it when the headline popped up on my phone, the first thing I thought, it's funny that it ended up coming out because they didn't have it originally. They just said that he had requested a trade. One of the first things that I thought honestly was Phoenix because I was like, well, Aiden wants out. I was like, you could package Bridges, you probably throw in Crowder and Cam Johnson. They could throw in like Cam Johnson. Like Cam Johnson's an attractive young piece because he's a shooter. And obviously he showed like when I think Chris Paul or Booker might have been out too for like COVID or something. Like he showed up. He had that one game against Utah, and granted it was the Utah Jazz, but he had like a 39, 38-point game. There's potential there. He's not an all-star, but he's a good starter in the NBA. And I think he's been basically a sixth man with them. So, but Mikal Bridges, all defensive player, bright future, potential, 1, 2, 3-time all-star in the league, maybe, especially in the right situation where he is kind of the guy. It could easily happen, like in Brooklyn. But Ayton, former number 1 overall pick, traditional center,
but top 5.
Somehow he's so athletic, it works well.
He's still a top 5 center in the league too.
Yeah, And you get that, and then of course you're going to trade Kyrie. You're going to get something out of that, whether it just be the cap space after you're done with Russ or whatever. And you got some building pieces to at least go around Brooklyn and still be entertaining and be in the hell. You were the 7th seed this year. I mean, that's what about where you're going to try and be at anyways. 7, 8 seed. You'll get to be a team that makes the playoffs. And you're still in New York. Like, I mean, as long as nobody wants to go to the Knicks still, you're the New York destination for everybody. And so that was the first team I thought of. The second team was the Hawks. It was kind of crazy because the DeJounte Murray trade happened like the day before. I think if the Hawks could go back, they would rather send all those pieces, Gallinari, John Collins, and maybe another player, Hurd, whoever, and they would probably try and go after Kevin Durant because they would have had the ammo, I think, to get Kevin Durant.
Based on
honestly,
well, based on what they're asking for, they want 2 all-star level players and 3 picks.
Give them that?
No one's giving them that because that's not how those
one all-star level player.
That's not how those trades work. It's like, hey,
always potential.
I'm not gonna trade you my all-star for your all-star because I'm trying to group 2 all-stars together. When I look at the different potential trades, obviously, if they did the Kyrie, KD for Russ street clothes and whatever the Lakers need to throw in there, you go, okay, that gives you something because you got Anthony Davis coming back. With Miami, you're getting nothing with Miami because you can't move Bam unless you're going to try to do the Jimmy Butler trade, which I don't think Miami wants to do that. I think they would want to pair them both.
I think they would move Bam though.
They can't move Bam with Ben Simmons on the roster because
I saw that list. It's like 9 players.
Well, no, you can't have 2 players on a rookie max extension on the same roster.
Who would that be?
So Bam's on a rookie max.
Ben is on his rookie max, right?
Yeah, it's stupid, but it's a CBA nonetheless. I think Philly. I don't even know if Philly's interested, but Philly has the best package. You could go Maxey, Tybal, Tobias, and
every pick that you own for the next 3 years, 4 years, and a bunch of pick swaps.
Right. So, and I don't think you want to go back to Philly because they just traded Harden over there, and they're in the East. But if you're really trying to get the best, because people think that Max is going to take a step up and be an all-star caliber player. Tobias is in that range of really good, but not ever going to be an all-star type player. And Tybal is your 3 no D, your D no 3, 3 and D guy. It doesn't get much better than that.
But what do you think of even Toronto being that wild card team everybody threw out? The idea of Scotty Barnes and
how are they going to win?
I'm just saying, Pascal Siakam, Scotty Barnes, Toronto probably would figure out a way to get another guy with them somehow. I don't know how it would work, but obviously Scotty Barnes Rookie of the Year. Pascal Siakam he's been an all-star. So he's a good player. He's a good player.
No, I don't think it works. I honestly don't.
That's the weird part about this offseason in the market now.
There's no good trade partners.
There's not. This season, for whatever reason, there just really aren't that many options. That's why, I hate to look at my buddy in Colin. He doesn't have that much of a market right now. And that's kind of the issue because there's not that much cap. And then a team that would have to do a sign and trade for him would have to be giving up assets. And they would have to pretty much know that they really like what they like in him. And that's why I could see him honestly probably having to just play out this year and then having to go back in. And that's going to be risky for somebody like him, for instance, just because his role is going to be a little different. Now that they've given Darius Garland a supermax contract, which I think is fucking nuts. I'm going to be honest with you. It's weird that they decided to give him all that money. And Collins basically been the best player on the team the last 3. I know the potential.
He got hurt, and they made the play-in. Timing the mother.
And they're gonna play. I think I told you how highly I think of Mobley. I think Mobley's the best player on the team, in my opinion, even over Collins. I think he's the best player.
I think Mobley's gonna be one of those guys.
I think that he is gonna be
AB level.
Yes, bro. I think that he is gonna really be, especially he already can kind of shoot. But if he improves his shooting even more, he's already got rebounding, blocking shots, defense in general, and he can push the ball like a little, like he can kind of push the ball if need be. Like,
well, here's
I really like him. Like as a player, I like, and that's why I think they sucked his dick a little bit by drafting his younger brother. And his younger brother is solid too. I watched a couple of USC games at 11 p.m.
You're supposed to do that, but while we're here in the off season, I think KD's holding a lot of stuff up. Kyrie's holding a lot of stuff up because teams are waiting to see what's going to happen, and then because DeAndre Ayton hadn't even gotten offered a deal or an offer sheet from someone else, so everybody's waiting to see what's going to happen with this KD move, and once everybody gets to Vegas, we'll start hearing some more stuff. But while we're here, and we got some more stuff we want to talk about on the NBA piece, but let's talk about these contracts and these max contracts, right? Because you talk about Darius Garland getting his super max extension. You got Zion Williamson, who just signed his. John Morant got his. Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and I want to open this by saying I am happy to see people getting paid,
especially young brothers.
And I them getting their money, I'm all about them going and getting their money. But I want to have a basketball conversation about basketball in a salary cap. Granted, it's a soft cap, but still a salary cap league, and how you should spend your money. Because I think that the max contract, the point of the max contract and the super max contract was supposed to be for tier 1 and tier 2 players. Just because you're the best player on a team doesn't mean that you're a max player. I think Devin Booker without Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton, if we went off of what Devin Booker was before he had those parts around him, he's not a super max guy to me. I don't think he gets to all NBA. He's a tier 3 guy. He's a good scorer, and I don't want to
being a tier 2.
I only want to pay you if Supermax is 50, I want to pay you 30. Because when you think about these high max and these Supermax guys, you mean to tell me I'm going to pay Devin Booker more than I'm paying LeBron James? And granted, LeBron switched teams, so he's not eligible for that Supermax and all of that stuff.
He's older.
And he's older. But is the value that Devin Booker brings to my team the same value that Nikola Jokic, Kevin Durant brings to my team? Hell no. Hell no. Is Russell Westbrook, the value that he brought to OKC, was he Supermax there? Yes, absolutely. Because he put ass in seats.
And he was an MVP. He was set up to get paid. Russell Westbrook was a tier 1, tier 2 guy. Tier 2.
He was never tier 1. So let's
tier 1 is literally, we already actually had a conversation. There's only 5 of those guys in the NBA.
Let's play a game of max or not. John Morant. No explanation, just max or not. John Morant.
Max.
Devin Booker.
Below the max.
Brad Beal. You can say max, not super max, too.
Oh, okay. Max.
Jokic.
Super max.
Embiid.
Super max.
DeMar DeRozan.
Max.
Zach LaVine.
Below the max.
Did Jalen Brunson get the right dollar figure?
When you broke it down the way that you did, I still don't think he did, because I'm going to be honest, I don't think he's a top 15 point guard in the NBA. But so no, is the answer to the question. But based on the market, that kind of dictated he was going to have to get overpaid because he was getting poached. And especially even in that situation, it's like him getting not just a raise, but a promotion, because he's going to be a starter and he's going to be looked at as a big 3 member. Oh, I don't want to call it big 3. You know, there's like those mini sodas and beers that are 8 ounces. That's what the Knicks big 3 is. It's like
I like the Bud Light Azalitas.
Yeah, well, just those small beers. You know, have you ever seen somebody show up to a party with a pack of 8-ounce beers?
Yeah, and I got pissed off.
Yeah, and that's what the Knicks are. That's why the New York fans are going to continue to be pissed off because you're damn near paying for, the 12-ounce, 16-ounce cans in a bottles in a pack. But for whatever reason, this guy was like, you know what? I'm going to bring the 8-ounce cans, and that's exactly what the Knicks are doing with Jalen Brunson.
All right, so last one, Donovan Mitchell.
Below the max.
Okay.
I look at him as the same. Him and Zach LaVine, these guys are in the same realm. Here's the reason why I gave, for instance, Bradley Beal max. Even though he's kind of in that same field, same with Booker. Like, they're all kind of in that same playing field. I think he's better than them, all of them. I think he's better than Booker, LaVine, and Mitchell.
Okay.
The issue with him is we've never got to really see him around elite talent. John Wall was good, and I think we take for granted how good John Wall was when he was healthy because he was a 20
and 10, 20 and 9 guy.
2010, and then he was giving you like 4 or 5 rebounds. Like, he was a good player, man. He was never an elite scorer.
Fast.
And that's okay. That's why they drafted Bradley Beal, because they were hoping he would become – that's why he went third. They were hoping he wouldn't. Bradley Beal is a bucket getter. Like,
bro,
the ball in the hole.
Brad Beal became what they expected him to be. John Wall just got hurt and stayed hurt.
Got hurt, and then they still didn't build the team well enough. They should have never been dependent on a 36, 37-year-old Paul Pierce to be kind of helping them win playoff. Like, that's pretty bad when Paul Pierce at the end of his career is your third best player.
They pay Jan Mahimny like $15 million a year. You know what I mean? Like, they
have Nene too.
Yeah, they made a lot of their front office sucked.
Yeah.
So let's get into this right here, man. Because we're talking about value and we're talking about a Supermax guy right here. Rudy Gobert. No, I'm not even going to ask you first. I'm going to tell you how I feel. So Minnesota traded some young scraps, Malik Beasley, who's a problem, Patrick Beverly, who's going to get bought out, and 5 draft picks for Rudy Gobert. And pretty much everybody I've heard said that Danny Ainge strikes again. He fleeced the Timberwolves, and Danny Ainge is this great GM trader. He always wins the trade. And Danny Ainge is the type of guy who wins in spades, but he rarely wins when there's money on the table. It's like, okay, yeah, you're pretty good at spades, but when the money's out, you rarely get what you need. Because Danny Ainge, he will win these trades, but he doesn't necessarily turn these trades into champions. He had the 2008 Celtics team, which is his one championship as a GM, but everything else, I mean, he, stockpiling draft picks, but he leaves you wanting more. That's Danny Ainge. So with the Timberwolves overpaid to get a limited player, especially a limited offensive player. Yes. But did they pay the Minnesota tax? Yes, because any and everybody knows that they're not going to sign stars to come to Minnesota unless they are putting together something beautiful. And even still, it's going to be damn near impossible. But why do you make that move? You make that move because you don't give a damn about those draft picks because they're not going to be good draft picks and they're not going to play for you. You make that move because you want Cat and Anthony Edwards to know that you're trying to win. And you make that move to say, hey, you know what, D-Lo? You better start throwing some loops so your days here are numbered.
That or we'll trade you and we'll recruit some of those picks.
Exactly. So for people to – and I get you may not like giving up that much for Rudy Gobert, especially for what it does for the market. But, hey, man, Utah wants to rebuild, and they're going to rebuild with picks in the 20s. Who gives a shit about draft picks in the fucking 20s?
That's who was available. And he's a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, 4-time All-Star, 3-time All-Star, All-NBA first team, of course, All-NBA defensive first team guy. They really didn't have much of a choice. They had to be in that position to where they added to what they had because we saw the flashes, obviously, even against, granted, it was a young Memphis team, but they showed, hey, we made the playoffs. We are building something here. Like you said, nobody is coming there and is saying, I want to sign with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Nobody's gonna do that. Kevin Durant isn't doing that. I don't even know who the top free agents are next year, but like nobody was gonna do that. If you couldn't, now let's look at it this way. There's no player on Minnesota's current roster that's better than Kevin Garnett, the best player in franchise history. Anthony Edwards has the potential to. It's too early to say it, but he has the. I think he's got star written all over him.
Oh, absolutely.
How great he is in the media too. Like I love that shit. Like I think he's great. But like point being, if they couldn't get Kevin Garnett fucking help, people didn't want to go to Minnesota when Kevin Garnett was there. What the fuck are they going to do with it? Karl Anthony Towns, a guy that doesn't show up in the play. Like they're never going to sign anyone because nobody, unless it's a guy that is from Minnesota. Similarly to how like LeBron, granted he got drafted by the Cavs too, but came back. Like LeBron's from Cleveland. I don't think that if LeBron wasn't from Cleveland, I don't think he goes back the second time, for instance. So like,
no, let me see.
There's a guy that's from Minnesota that wants to play, like from Minneapolis, Minnesota, or just the state in general, and he wants to go home. Like Chet is from Minnesota.
I'm about to say, I think Chet and what's his name? His point guard who went to Gonzaga too.
Well, he's just seeing like he's just gonna be an okay pro. He don't even.
I'm just saying.
Jalen Suggs. But I think it's Franz Wagner because Mo's the older brother. He's actually a problem. I think he's gonna be really good. But he'll similarly fizzle. He'll do the same thing. Nick, what's my man in Chicago? Voos. He'll do the same thing that he did. He might even eventually be an all-star type player.
Yeah, no, but back to your point, like it's gonna be a Chet, it's gonna be a Jalen Suggs, somebody who's from that area. That's the only way you're gonna get free agents that we think have value to go there.
And then we got to check in from Major Parlay here.
What's happening?
Trying to drop some hot shit right now, man.
That's dope, man. So hey, let's continue here. So there's another side of that Rudy Gobert trade, right? And Utah has done what you said they should do, blow it up. And I mean they've acquired 6 first-round draft picks, and some are saying Donovan Mitchell's the next one to go, so they can really start from the ground up and rebuild.
They should.
And I asked the question, what are you going to replace him with? Who are you going to replace him with, and is he going to be better? And my answer is probably no. So why not build around your all-star, your scorer, and allow him to, actually flourish with the proper complementary pieces?
I just hit the reset on it. That's just kind of my thinking with them. It's time for a reset. And they went from, that Boozer, Darren Williams type team that was similar to them, really, except for this Utah team was having a top 3 record almost every year. Never gets out of the second round. I get it. Basketball. Nobody, and the crazy part is that, and just like I told you about Minneapolis, I think because people just don't look at these cities and really go to them like that. I've been to Salt Lake City too, and just Utah as a state. It's fucking beautiful out there. Like it's fucking beautiful. And
yeah, but we're not welcome.
I was about to say, now granted, the nightlife scarce. The baddies, you flying them out anyways if you really like. So like, yes, the locals. I didn't see too much that I like from that perspective out there. But then again, they don't really have spots out there like that. So like, Utah is in a position similar to them to where they just got to hope that they hit on a pick and he's really good, and then they hit on another one, and then they can make a trade too. So like, they have to be bad in order to do that, and they haven't been bad really in a long time. So like, because even Donovan Mitchell was like the 18th, 17th pick. He wasn't a lottery pick, and so like, they have to.
Donovan Mitchell was the pick that you wanted to hit on. And so often in these rebuilds, this is what we see. We go, hey, let's get rid of this guy to find another guy. Why don't you rebuild around that guy? Because that guy, I mean, I don't know. Danny Ainge has job security. He hired his guy from Boston.
For a minute.
He has job security, so he can blow it up. And I hope they trade Donovan Mitchell to the Heat. And I can do like a Sam Kroenke did and say F them picks, because the pick. I'm so tired of draft pick culture, man. Give me players, not picks.
I'm with you, but like I'm not. It just depends on the situation. Like Danny Ainge is in a unique position because Danny can. He's done it before. We saw him hit the reset button on Boston. And think about it. He was in control of the team. He's done it on both fronts. He went and got guys, original big three.
You mean his team? You mean his teammate? You mean his teammate hand delivered him a guy for a Boston championship?
A young bright coach poached him from Butler, of all places, because you had to think that Brad Stevens was a good coach. He took Butler to the national championship 2 years in a row, and he was white, so it really helped, with the Boston thing. Same with Utah. I was like, what a Utah move hiring. Even if Danny Ainge really liked that guy, what a Utah move by getting a white coach. What a move by Danny Ainge.
I am less impressed with what Danny Ainge does, because as much as Danny Ainge wheels and deals, he makes decisions to make you top four, and he's afraid to. He won't make decisions that make you top of the world. And he got his 08 ring, but Kevin McHale hand delivered Kevin Garnett to him. Hand delivered him to him.
They gave up Al.
Just like Jerry West hand delivered Pau Gasol to the Lakers. I don't want to hear that shit. That's not good GMing. And no, don't get me wrong. Danny Ainge is a top of the league GM.
Now, didn't one of those picks? No. That year, the following year, and clearly it couldn't have been one of Boston's picks, but it could have been a pick that Boston had. I don't know. Remember, Minnesota drafted Johnny Flynn and Ricky Rubio that year. They had 2 picks.
I don't remember that draft, but I can't. I don't.
Steph Curry was drafted.
Yeah, I remember that draft. But I don't remember who owned the picks. But that probably was the Celtics pick, because
they could have been a pick that the Celtics had from something else. I don't know. Point being, these things, they can turn into something.
And Jazz aren't going to win a championship.
Yeah, they're not. Hell, bro, they had 2 of the top 50 players in NBA history, and they didn't win. Now, granted, Michael Jordan is who was stopping them from doing it, but still, they had those guys for a full – Utah loves continuity, because those guys played together for 15, 16, 17 years.
John, look here, man, because I'm ready to get off this topic. Danny Ainge is going to break them down to turn them into another second-round team. It's just going to be what players that he wants. So it's like, what are we doing this for?
Let's just stop the agony. And I felt the same exact way, just like how I've always been talking shit about the Jazz. Bro,
you're not stopping the agony. It's going to stay the same. It's going to be the same bullshit that's going to be good in the regular season. It's going to be gone in round 2.
I want to see the same movie with different characters to see if it looks better, at least, even if it's the same result. Because I just can't think about the Hawks did it too. Shit. They reshuffled Marvin Williams, Al Horford, Joe Johnson, not Jeff Teague. It was Mike Bibby. They reshuffled that team and then turned it into the fucking Al Horford, Kyle Korver, DeMar. They turned it into those guys. That the Hawks did the same thing. But then they finally broke the shit down. They got Trae Young. They went to an Eastern Conference Finals, built a team that's strictly been built mainly on the draft with very little free agents, certainly no major ones, maybe one mid-level guy. And look what they did. And now they're on
no. You will not compare Atlanta to Utah, because here's what Atlanta can do. If Atlanta proves competent, Atlanta can sign a free agent.
But why haven't we? We talked about this, I think, last time. Dwight Howard is literally the biggest free agent signed the Hawks.
Yeah, I got that. But if Atlanta proves competency, if they prove that they're a piece away, Atlanta can sign a player. No, ain't no niggas going to Utah.
That's true. That's
true.
Hey,
look.
Yes, that's what they have.
I can't give Utah and Danny Ainge any more of my energy. I can't, because it's the same movie over again. You want different characters. You know what? I like life. I know how it starts. I know how it finishes. I still like it. Danny Ainge, I know how it's going to start. I know how it's going to end. But unlike life, I'm going to fucking hate it.
So basically, you're telling me that Danny Ainge he's just a modern day fucking Friday the 13th director. We
Yes.
know what Jason's gonna do. We
Yes.
know how Jason's gonna fall. He's gonna drown.
And he's gonna come back to life.
Yeah, for another movie.
Yes.
Maybe next
Danny
time
Ainge.
will be with Freddy Krueger.
Hey, but who was Genie subtweeting? I miss
LeBron.
KB. He would understand and explain everything that I'm not allowed to. Honestly, he was the greatest Laker ever. He understood team over self, meaning your rewards would come if you valued team goals over your own. Then everything would fall into place. All can reply. Thanks for talking to LeBron.
I think it was a challenge. I don't even think it was like a I hate you. It's just, man, I really want to see this thing get back to what it was. But Kobe, when you think, and maybe it's because he's our era, and like, you know, of course, I try to not be biased about this because he is my favorite, not just my favorite player, he's my favorite athlete.
Go ahead, tell me something wrong.
But I just think that, and you know, it was funny because we had that conversation too. When I had said that, I said that I thought Kobe was the greatest Laker of all time. He is.
Yeah, but give me back to what Jeannie was saying though. We're not gonna go down the Kobe rabbit hole today. We're not doing that.
I know, because we could go down that rabbit hole. It'll be a whole iceberg. But I think it was a challenge sent to LeBron.
Here's my issue with her challenging LeBron. She should look in the mirror and challenge herself first. Jeannie the bus children have been the face of NBA incompetence that have been saved by Hollywood, great weather, and the beach. The Lakers are a incestuous cesspool. And if you don't understand something, Jeannie, talk to LeBron. Miss me with the Twitter shit. You own the team. Fire Rob Pelinka, sorry ass. You know,
can we blame Rob?
Can we
in the GM? You know
if you are a good GM, you will skirt that balance between making team moves and making LeBron happy.
That's true. I mean, and
the Lakers front office
exactly. I think that there are two factors, just because this goes a little bit deeper into the Genie thing. I think that there are two factors, even in why LeBron left Miami. I think that he did just want to go home. He wanted to right a wrong. And like he even was quoted saying his time in Miami was like going to college. He never went to college. So he stayed in Ohio his entire life up until he made that decision. And he was only there for 4 years. Now, the brain trust there was who?
Pat Riley.
Fucking Riley, former Laker coach, and obviously he's responsible for that. For the dynasty that they had in the 80s. Pat Riley didn't give a fuck that he was LeBron James, honestly, because he's Pat Riley. He's like, bro, I've been doing this. I won as a player. I won as an assistant coach. I am arguably, and I'm in everybody's top three, no matter what, as a coach. And even as an executive, I pulled enough strings. I led the Knicks too. Like while I was there, like I was leading them 90s Knicks team that was giving Jordan this hard time. We just didn't have Jordan. You were supposed to be the Jordan of this era. He didn't. Matter of fact, there's a whole interview with Pat Riley talking about that. And I think that with Jeannie, it's one of those things where she isn't Jerry Buss. She's not her dad. And that's okay. Now they got a championship under her. For what it's worth, like they did win the championship. Granted, it was a bubble one, but they did. Look, I'm a Lakers fan. Look, I was happy when they. I'm just saying it was a bubble.
You copping all these pleas for Jeannie?
Bro, sit out for 2 to 3 months.
Jeannie fucking sucks, bro.
Getting injured.
Jeannie's a bad owner. She's a bad owner. That's what it boils down to. She's a bad owner. She's allowing Kurt Rambis and Linda Rambis to run the team because they've been there forever. Everybody's a Laker.
Phil for advice when we know that Phil is not a good executive.
No, and Magic Johnson still has his great face card after he quit on you. Like, bro, stop doing all this. Huh?
It said it's Magic, though.
I got it. But guess what? Magic Johnson had some of the worst basketball tweets I've ever read in my life. And he did what he did in the front office and he turned his back on you, man. Like you gotta run your business like it's a damn business and not the damn country club. Like that's all it is.
The Warriors will beat the Celtics tonight if they score more points than them. That's the type of shit.
Like, miss me with all of that stuff. Like,
yeah, Magic, thanks. I didn't know that. Like, I figured that they could still lose if they score more points. I appreciate you for giving me something that I didn't know. Like,
bro, it's just like, you know, this happened at Morehouse when President Franklin left. When Dr. Wilson came in, what did he do? He started firing people who had been working there for a long time. You know why? Because the school wasn't progressing the way that it needed to be. It was falling behind. And he was like, hey, we need to get other people here who have a different way of thinking, who haven't just worked at Morehouse or in the HBCU network their entire career. And people didn't like it. And he didn't get renewed. That's probably why. But you know what?
That's why, too, they brought in the new guy. I don't even really know his name, but like he's an outsider. Like,
and that's what you need outsiders, because at some point, if you keep bringing in people who think about the old times and how we used to do it, you don't get new ideas. Okay. But you know what? That brings us on to our next topic. UCLA and USC going to the Big Ten, because everybody is upset about it, all up in arms. Like, what does this mean about college football? It means that cash rules everything around me. UCLA's sports program was about to evaporate because they were $100 million in debt, because they don't care about sports over there, because they're actually a really good school for academics.
Well, and then they're in the middle of Beverly Hills.
That's where I want to be.
Life is great.
So what does this say about USC and UCLA? It says that the Big Ten wants to compete with the SEC, and it says that the Pac-12 is a shit conference, which we all knew that, right?
Isn't it a little surprising that, considering you could have just taken USC, and I probably would have went Washington, honestly, instead, just because, I mean, Washington's a lot of these schools are good schools. Mm-hmm. Like USC is not easy to get into either. Like, but
money.
And and that was the thing. I mean, it's a money thing more than anything. And UCLA, for what it's worth, has a tradition. Plus, they'll bring you up on the basketball. USC's pretty good at basketball too, but like UCLA will bring you up on the basketball end of things too.
Yeah, but here's the more important thing. USC and UCLA have alumni everywhere, and that's what's important. Having the alumni networks to tap into markets that they're not necessarily living in. That Seattle market, it's not, in my opinion, is not big enough for them to want to carry the Pacific Northwest.
And actually, my bad. I didn't even mean to really say Washington, even though they would have been a team too. I would think about. I actually meant to say Oregon, but I think you got Phil Knight. You got Phil Knight.
He got it though.
Oregon would have been a better addition than UCLA, because you're already in the LA market with USC. Like,
but clearly
we don't even care. We don't even care about the rivalries and stuff like that stuff. That I hate to say it, that shit's almost been thrown out the window for the most part. Because if you're a rival, which I guess in this case the rival is traveling with them, but if you're right, like think about what is going to happen to Oklahoma State. Like, I guess, I mean, they can still play each other, just like Georgia plays Georgia Tech every year. Like, they can still play each other, but they're not in the same conference. The
game has less value to it. And I'm not mad at the conferences for trying to expand and make more money. I'm not mad at the schools for trying to expand and make more money. I'm mad that ESPN is trying to broker all these deals behind the scenes because they have their own vested interests there. But for the traditional college football fan, it sucks. And I mean, we're living in a world where traditions are becoming less important, and the bottom line is what drives everything. I talked on a pod about how think about all of the funny movies that we liked growing up that would never get greenlit today just because looking at it, you go, you know what, this is not going to get the back end that we think we're going to get off of it. Take a movie like Friday. Friday probably wouldn't get greenlit today, and I mean it's made its money, because it became a cult classic. But the same thing is happening here with college football. It's all about the TV rights, it's all about the TV money. And so now we're gonna have this geographical imbalance, and these teams that we would never imagine playing each other on the regular, and they're still in college. Like majority of these kids are still trying to get an education, and now you're throwing in these cross country flights, these middle of the country to the coastal flights. I get it, it's the weekend, but shit, man, it's hard to do homework on a flight.
Hard to do it on a flight. Then you got to balance the idea of, man, they're going to give me this amount of money, which with the NILs, of course, like you're getting this money from that. It's straightforward. And because it's legal, like what's being done, remember too, man, even though these guys, they practically have agents as soon as they get out of high school, really, at that point.
Oh, they're in high school now, hell.
Yeah, who's brokering the deal? And they got to worry about their taxes. Like, bro, these are real fucking things that you have to do. You're basically a pro now in college. And that was why I think with USC and UCLA moving to the Big Ten, it sets up the stage for college football to essentially turn into the NFL. They really want it to be essentially two really big leagues. And, it quiets all the talk of, wow, why should Cincinnati have a chance to be in? We won't have these conversations anymore because there are only going to be 3, maybe 4 big leagues, but it's going to have everybody in it. Anyone outside of those 3 big leagues, they have no chance no matter what they fucking do because they're not in those leagues. This, to me, makes it more inclusive for all the mid-tier schools that, like a Cincinnati is better at football than Purdue. No, well, Purdue was pretty good this year. Cincinnati is better at football than Illinois, but Illinois is in the Big Ten. But why is it that Cincinnati doesn't get a shot at the national championship? They did this year, of course, because they ran the table 2 years in a row, basically, aside from losing to Georgia in their bowl game. They ran the table in the regular season 2 years in a row, and that gave them the opportunity to be in it. They have plenty of guys that got drafted this year. Now they're in the Big 12. If you set it up to where you essentially get all the top teams from.
Hold on. Before you go there, I was gonna bring you in. So this is what college football should do. They should secede from the NCAA. They should become their own entity. College football. They already don't play for the NCAA championship.
But then what about basketball?
Well,
go ahead. Set it up. My bad.
So college football should secede, and in their secession plan, they should come up with what we talked about in the pre-production, the Big Four. So your 4 regional conferences. You're gonna have your SEC, ACC blend-ish, right? And if we're using old school conferences, you're gonna have like your Big East, Big 10 blend-ish, along with a Big 12, Big 10 blend-ish, along with your Pac-12, Big 12 bend it. Like, it's just geographical, and you're putting the powerhouses there. You divide them up properly between the fucking television networks because that's what really matters here. And
somebody gets ABC, ESPN. Somebody gets
Fox.
NBC. Well, even though NBC's got then Notre Dame is going to be the biggest like domino for this. But Fox, somebody gets Fox, somebody gets CBS, and then there's your 4. You're on your 4 networks, and then of course you'll have your wild card type games. If they don't decide to not just be straight conference games, Amazon is now an option to have Alabama play USC on TV.
College football, and you could probably throw college basketball in there too. They need to be their own entity, separate from what the school has going on, separate from the NCAA stuff. Can their money still go fund the Olympic sports? Sure. and they operate as is because at this point, the requirement on the student athlete should not be the same as the regular student. And we know that student athletes get different privileges that the other students don't. But with these travel schedules that they're trying to add now with what they're doing, it's insane. And back to the NIL stuff and all the stuff you got to balance. I just think that it would be best for that division to happen. And maybe, we talked about expansion, and I was anti-expansion. But with the way these super leagues are forming, I think we got to expand the college football playoff. What do you think this looks like in 10 years?
College football conferences or just college football
let's go conferences and then college football at large.
I think that conferences are going to ultimately, because I think that with all the moving parts right now, we're just going to eventually have something that's all over the place. It will no longer be regional. I think that regional conferences are pretty much dead at this point, because even though Texas, for instance, is the South, right? Most people would consider it the South. Is Oklahoma really the South, or is that the Midwest? What do you even consider that? But they're in the SEC now. I get it. They're right above Texas. But what is that? UCLA, USC. Big Ten is the Midwest, right? It is the Midwest. It's Central Time, Central stuff, basically.
Yeah.
I think that at this point, regional college, certainly because it sounds like these are moves. These moves are for basketball too. Regional stuff is gone. I think that you're almost in a weird way keeping some tradition, but resetting the deck all the way around. You're just resetting the deck. We're going to create new rivalries. If Ohio State plays USC every year,
that's a rivalry.
It'll become a rivalry. We'll just have a new one. New traditions get started all the time. When you think about it, it's kind of uncanny. This is something that hasn't really happened before. We don't see this stuff very often, right? What's the last new holiday outside? I mean, yes, Juneteenth got added.
Wow.
But before that, what is the latest holiday? And it doesn't even have to be federal, but because Juneteenth was a holiday before it became federal.
I think it would be
when we create a new tradition.
I think it would be like the awareness months, like Pride. June is Pride Month. And I think that's something that's really, taken over, and it's like a thing, anything else? I can't really think of anything else outside of Juneteenth and Pride being significant holidays. You can look at October being Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I just think the awareness months have become the new times to stop, reflect, and think about something.
Month is military appreciation week is a week in the NFL, but
I assume it's in November during.
Granted, we have plenty of holidays that kind of express gratitude to those that are in the military, right?
Yeah.
Memorial Day is for those that have, died in battle. We remembering what's happened, and then of course,
Veterans Day.
Guys get good meals.
Yeah. So what I like that spin. I think that the new traditions are going to be here. And honestly, that's the world we live in. When the bottom line is the first sentence, you got to understand what the paper is going to look like. And it's about getting to the paper. So if you're not into that, if you're not willing to accept the new traditions, then, you're kind of lost, man. You're kind of lost. But, Parlay Pete, it's been a good talk. I don't got much else for you. I think we hit everything. We're at almost 2 hours.
One more thing, but we can always save it for next week.
Was it the Atlanta music? Let's roll it because we're at 2 hours. That was gonna take too long. Let's open with it next week.
Okay, we can do that.
As long as we don't get big news.
Okay, we can do that. That works for me.
All right, bet, man. Y'all be safe tonight.
Okay. All right, brother.
All right, Doc.
All right.
Peace. JP, what's happening?
Sam, what?